Hey everyone, in today's video, I'll show you how to build a simple app with Flask and OpenAI that allows you to record a user's voice and transcribe that voice and then display the text. So as an example, I'll hit record here and I'll just start talking. So everything that I'm saying here as the record button is red will be sent over to OpenAI and it will determine what I said, convert it to text, and then I will display it here in the browser. So let me hit the button again and wait just a second. And we see here, I have the transcription of everything that I just said. So I've transcribed the audio that I just sent and we have it displayed here. So that's what I'm going to demonstrate in this video. It's a simple little project with Flask and OpenAI just to show you what you can do with the OpenAI API. But before we get into that, I just want to say that if you need one-on-one help with any of your projects, so your Python projects, Flask, Django, whatever, I do have something called the coaching program available where I work with people one-on-one. We have Zoom calls where I can look at your code and work through any problems that you have or help you just write code for your app. So if you're interested in that, just go to prettyprinter.com/coaching and I will be available to help you with that. Just read the instructions on how to fill out the form and I'll get in contact with you. So with that said, let's get into building this project in Flask and OpenAI, and also there's a bit of JavaScript involved as well. Okay, so to get started with this is what I have to begin with. It's just a very simple Flask app that has one route so far. Inside that one route, it has a record button and an area where it's going to display the output of the transcription. So this is what it looks like right now. You just see the record button, but when I press it, it doesn't do anything. I'm also adding this app.js file here. So this is where I'll write all the JavaScript for this little project. So I'll start writing it now because I want to set up the functionality where I can actually record my voice first. And then once I can record my voice, I'll then take the audio and pass it to OpenAI to get the transcription, and then I can insert it into the page. So here I have these two constants, record and output. Those are just the elements on the page, so I can know when the record button was pressed and I know where to put the output transcription. So the first thing I need to do is I need to set up the ability to record. So this is going to be using a browser API. So there's no custom code that needs to be written to record your voice. You just need to use the API that comes with your browser, one of the many APIs that comes with your browser. So to do that, the first thing I need to do is I need to make sure that the user actually has this available, and pretty much everyone in 2024 and going forward should have this on their browsers, but just in case they don't, you want to put a check in your code to make sure that they actually have the functionality. So to do that, what you do is you see if the function that you need to use first, so this function is called get user media, you see if it exists in the browser. If it does, then you can go forward with actually setting everything up. If it doesn't exist, then you can give them like some error message. So the API is going to be under navigator .media devices .get user media. Right. So if this exists, if this function exists, that means that you can record audio from their browser. If it doesn't exist, then you can't, and you just have to give them an error message. So what I'll do is I'll put a comment here, and then after the brackets here, I'll put an else, and I'll just alert, get user media not supported in your browser. Okay. So let's say it's not supported, just like that. So if this function doesn't exist, like I said, then we can't really do anything with this particular project, or you just need an alternate way of getting their voice, but you can't use this. But if they do, then you can continue with the code here. So the way that this works is once you call this function, get user media, it's going to display the permissions pop up in the browser asking the user to give permission to record audio. And also they'll have to select a recording device as well. So if they have like multiple microphones connected to their computer like I do right now, then they'll have to select the one that they want to use to record. So that's what happens when you call this function. And when you call that function, that will either be successful or a failure. So if they give you permission and they select a device, it's going to succeed. And then you can get the sound from that device. And if they say no, or there's just some other error, then you can't do anything because they're not giving you permission to use their microphone. So for that, I need to define these two callback functions. So let me define those here first. I'm going to use the approach of defining functions like this. So it's going to be a callback function. So it's going to start with on. That's just like a little convention. But let's say on media setup or on media start. How about that? On media start. I don't even like that name. On media setup success. Okay, this is a good name. So on media setup success, I want to call this function when the user gives permission. So like I said, I'm using this style of functions simply because the API that I'm using, I need to define some functions for things that happen when you stop the media recording or sound comes in, and this is the easiest syntax. So I just want to keep it consistent. So I'm going to use it for the callbacks as well. So this is going to take in some stream. This is basically the microphone, the source of the audio. So I'll just put that there. And you know what? I'll put an alert. So, everything is working just so we can see. And then I'll call this on media setup failure, right? And this function doesn't have to take anything, but you can have an error in here, an error message. I'll just put error like that. And then I'll just alert whatever the error is. Okay, so this should be enough for the callback functions for now. And then once I have those callback functions, I want to actually use them in get user media. So I'm going to call navigator dot media devices dot get user media. And then I want to pass in a dictionary, or since this is JavaScript, an object that just tells the browser what kind of media I'm interested in getting. So in this case, I just want audio. I don't want video or anything. So I just put audio true here. And then after this, I can just call then, and I pass in the two callbacks. So on media success and on media setup failure. Okay, so it's on media success, not on media setup success. There we go. So that should be enough. So let me go back over to the browser and refresh. And now we see as soon as I refresh, this pop-up comes up where I can select an audio source. So I have two microphones set up, and I can either select allow or block. I'll select allow, and we see everything is working. And then we see the icon here that just shows that I've granted permission to this website. And every time I refresh, it doesn't have to ask for permission because it still remembers that on this particular website, I've given permission. So if I close my browser, reopen it, and go back to the same page, then I'll have to grant permission again. So, okay, so now I have this ready. And what I want to do next is I want to set up the ability to actually take my voice, record my voice, and then send it somewhere. So in the on media setup success function, that's where I'll put all the code for this. So the first thing I need to do is I need to grab the actual stream and create a media recorder out of it. So I'll do const media recorder. And this is going to be equal to new media recorder. So I'm instantiating the media recorder. So this is from the JavaScript API, the browser API. And let me make that a capital R. And this should be const. Okay, so I'm instantiating this, and then I'll use this media recorder for everything. So now what I want to consider is what happens when I start recording. So I have this record element here, this value, and I'll just do on click. Like I said, I don't usually use this style of writing functions, but because I'm using the media recorder, I think it makes more sense. So record.onClick, we have the function here. And when I do this, I want to check the status of the media recorder. So if the media recorder is currently recording, I'm basically going to stop the media recorder. And if it isn't recording, then I want to start it. So I can check the state of the media recorder by doing media recorder dot state, and this will be equal to recording. So if it's recording, then I'm going to stop it. So I'll do media recorder dot stop. And then I have some bootstrap stuff. Basically, I want to change the color of the record button. So I can do record.classList.remove. I want to remove the button danger, right? So when I start the recording, I want to turn the button to be red. And when I stop, I want to turn it back to the original blue that it is here. So for that, I have to remove the danger class. Danger is the red. And I need to add primary. So ClassList.add and then button, primary, and bootstrap. And then this will be the opposite in this else here. So this else represents the state that is not recording, meaning that you haven't started recording yet. So here, I'm going to start the media recorder. So media recorder.start, not starter, but start. And then I want to add and remove the correct classes. So I'm going to remove button primary this time, remove the blue, and then I'm going to add the button danger. So here, when the user clicks on the record button, if it's already recording, it stops, changes the colors. If it isn't recording, it starts the recording and it changes the colors as well. Okay. So the idea is when you are recording audio from this, the user's voice or whatever sound is coming in is going to be coming in chunks, right? So it's not like going to be a continuous thing that has the audio. Instead, it's going to be broken up into little pieces. So you can take those little pieces and put them into an array, and then you can take that entire array and take that as the recording once the user hits stop. So the way you can do this is you can first initialize like a list. So we'll say, we'll call this chunks, or initialize an array in JavaScript. And then down here, I have a media recorder. And then I need to define the on data available function, right? So I'm adding a function here, and E is going to be, the stuff that is available. And I simply want to push the data from E, like the event of the data being available, into the chunk. So I'll do chunks.push E data. Right. So let's say like each chunk is 1 second. So if I record for 10 seconds, then I'll have 10 items in this array when I'm done, when I hit the stop button, or when I hit the record button again to stop it. So once I have all the chunks after I stop it, I need to do something with it. So first I need to know when I've stopped. So I can set up another function here. So media recorder on stop. So when I stop, I can do something. And what I want to do is I want to create a new object that holds all of the information from the chunks. So like I said, I set up the chunks because the data is going to come into chunks. But once I stop the recording, I want to take all those chunks and create like one thing. And in JavaScript, that's called a blob. So what I'll do is I'll say let blob. So this will be a variable equal new blob. So I'm instantiating a blob, and I'm just going to pass the chunks. So chunks here, and I need to give it a file type, right? So the type here is going to be audio/WebM, which is the default type for audio when you're recording like this. And it's completely fine for our purposes. If you wanted to change this, you could, but audio WebM is completely fine. So once I do that, I can like clear out the chunks. So I'll just say chunks equals that, so I can record multiple times. And then once I have this blob, I can go ahead and send it over to my Flask app. So Flask is about to come into play again. So what I want to do is I want to create some form data here, and I'm going to add it to the form, right? So it's not like a regular HTML form, but for me, this is the most convenient way of getting the blob over to Flask. So I'm going to say form data.append, and I'll add a form element called audio, and I'm passing the blob to that. So now that I have this form data and I've attached the blob to it, I need to send that over to my Flask app. So I can use fetch for that. And we'll create an endpoint called Transcribe. And then here we'll set up the things here. So the method is going to be post. And then the body is going to be the form data. Right, so post request using the form data, and the form data only has the blob in it. When this returns properly, I want to call then, and then let's say response. And I want to convert that to JSON. So I'm going to return my transcription in JSON. So I'm just converting it to JSON. And then I'll add another then. And this will have the data that's actually in my JSON. And for now, I'll just console log it. So console log data, or really I can just alert it. I think that would be fine as well. All right. So just to recap, I set up the functionality where I can change the color of the button and stop or start the media recorder. I have this function here that will be called every time there's data available from the stream. So it just gets pushed onto this array called chunks. And then when I stop the recording, it will create a blob using the chunks. It will add that blob to some form data, and then I'll pass that form data to fetch so I can send it over to my Flask app. So now let me go over to my Flask app and work on that. So I have a new route here called Transcribe that I want to build. So app route transcribe. I remember the methods will just be post for this, and I'll call it transcribe. And what I want to do is I want to import requests from Flask because I need to get the data from the requests. So I'll just call this file, and I'll say requests.files and then audio. So audio is just the audio that I put here in form data. Next, I need to convert that audio to something that I can send to the OpenAI API. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to import IO. And I'm going to use that to create a bytes IO object. And I'll just call this buffer. So buffer equals IO.bytes IO. And then I'll take the file and read it in, right? So it's going to read in the file data and create a new bytes IO object from that. And I'm calling it buffer. The reason why I'm doing that is because I need something I can send to OpenAI. I can't send the file itself directly from the form. I need to convert it to a form that I can send to OpenAI. So that's why I'm doing it here. And then I need to give it a name. The name doesn't really matter, but I noticed in testing that the OpenAI API doesn't like when you send a buffer with no name. So I'm just going to call this audio.webm, right? That should be fine. So next I need to use the OpenAI API. So first I can pip install it. So pip install OpenAI. And then I can go ahead and import the main class. So from OpenAI, import OpenAI. And I can set up the client. So client equals OpenAI. And I have my API key in my environment. So it's there. You don't see it, but you have to set that up before. So you can either put it here as like API key equals whatever, or you can put it in the environment like me under an environment variable called OpenAI API key. So once you have that client, then you can use it for stuff. So here, I'm going to create a variable called transcript. So this is going to be the output from OpenAI. And I'm going to use the client that I just instantiated. And then I'll use the API call for transcription. So it's client.audio.transcriptions.create. And then you need to give it a model. The model that I'll use is whisper1. And then the file. So the file is just going to be buffer, right? And from this, I want to return a JSON object. We'll just say output. And I'll take the transcript and grab the text. So let's see if this works. Let's go ahead and start the app. And let's go over and check it out. So I'll refresh the page. And remember, the permission is still there. So I'll hit the record button. And I'll just start talking. So record, and I'm still talking. I'm using the microphone that I'm recording the video with. So everything that I'm saying now should be recorded. We see that the button is red. So now I'll stop it by clicking it again. And We see this pop up, this alert. It has object. The reason why it has object is because I'm trying to console log, or not console log, but alert an object here. So instead of just data, I'll do data.output because that's what I put it under, and I'll try it again. So let me just refresh, and then I'll record again. So now I'm recording, and now when I hit the stop button or the record button again, it's going to alert the actual text. So let's see if that happens. So just wait a moment, and we see here the text that I was just saying as I was reading. So I'll record again and blah, blah, blah. You just heard it. Okay. So the last thing I want to do is I want to simply put that here so the user can see it. And that's very simple to do. So instead of alerting data.output, I'll just take the output element here. So output.inner HTML, and I'll do data output just like that. So now let's try one more time. I'll refresh. I'll hit the record button here, and I'll just talk a little bit, and we should see that when I hit the stop button, all the text is going to appear here when everything is done. So I'll hit stop. And we see the text appear here. This is everything that I just said. And of course, if I wanted to record again, because I'm clearing out the chunks, I can. So now when I hit the record button again and it stops, it should just replace everything here with everything that I said after I hit the button again. So I'll stop it. And we see that the text has just changed. So that's it for this little project that I want to show you. It's just a simple way of using the OpenAI API, but a lot of people are interested in this API nowadays. So I thought I'd make more videos. This is the second video with OpenAI, so I'll probably make more videos in the future. But I just want to show you like a little example of what you can do with the OpenAI API. So that's it for this video. If you have any questions about anything that I've done here, feel free to leave a comment down below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel already, please subscribe. So thank you for watching, and I will talk to you next time.